not on. Good morning, everybody. If you could just go ahead and grab your coffee and make your way to your seat, we're going to start in just a moment.
Good morning. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. My name is Kim Rock, and I am the Chief Operating Officer at the Institution for Savings. It is my pleasure to welcome all of you in person and those attending virtually to this morning's breakfast. As many of you in this room, the bank has been a longtime supporter of our Neighbors Table. And it is our pleasure to once again be honoring all of this that this organization does. We are honored to be the presenting sponsor. As we all know, our Neighbors Table provides wholesome, fresh food, service with dignity and respect to those in need. Over the past 12 months, through unprecedented times, they have provided universal food service to hundreds in the 12 communities they serve. And I think you will all agree with me that that is a feat of incredible magnitude and one that certainly deserves our congratulations, our thanks to everyone this morning. Before I turn this over to Dana, I would ask you to actually all join me in acknowledging and thanking Lindsay, the employees, the volunteers, and the board of directors who work tirelessly every day to alleviate food insecurity in our region. Thank you all. It is my pleasure to now turn the mic over to Dana Marshall, who will once again be the MC of this morning's breakfast.
Well, good morning, everyone. It's so nice to be standing here in front of all of you in person, and it's lovely to be talking to all of you virtually as well. Welcome to our annual breakfast for our Neighbors Table, and a huge thanks to Institution for Savings and Kim Rock. We couldn't do any of this without you. And while we're talking about sponsors, let me thank additional sponsors this morning. The champion sponsors, Alternative Therapies Group, Amesbury Industrial Supply, ARC Technologies, Atlantic Hospitality Group, Seaglass and Blue Ocean, Breakpoint Advisors, and Water Street Realty Trust. In addition to that, we'd like to thank our partner sponsors, Blanchette Financial Group, Dino Records, and Linden Financial Group. I'd also like to acknowledge some very important people in the audience today, our elected officials and their teams for being here. Thank you, Representative Jim Kelcourse. Thank you, Mayor Gove of Amesbury. Welcome and thank you to Mayor Holliday, Thank you for all your support over the years, and this is your last attending role as mayor to the breakfast, one of many. We look forward to seeing you in your civilian clothes, and we can't thank you enough for your work over the years. Thank you. We're also grateful to have our district team from Congressman Moulton's office and the staff from our State Senator Diane DiZoglio. We thank you for joining us today and for the work that you do on behalf of food insecurity in our region. So we have a full morning. We're going to have coffee and conversation with some very important folks in just a little bit. We have some champions that we'd like to acknowledge, but I'd just like to reiterate what Kim said earlier. It really is amazing to see you all in person this year. We've had a pretty challenging couple of years. It's sad that we're talking 2 years now, but that's the way it is. But the best part of our community and what our Neighbors Table does is pivot. That's a word that we've heard a lot of lately in business and in nonprofits and in our personal lives. And it's not an easy thing to do, to change the way things are done on a day-to-day basis, particularly when they work so well. So being able to pivot, as our Neighbors Table and the volunteers in particular have been able to do, has been quite a feat, remarkable indeed, and being able to not only take care of the guests that we had been taking care of for so long, we were able to take care of a whole bunch of new families who were really in need, and we're continuing to do that. And your presence here helps us to get that job done. So thank you very much. A round of applause for all of you here today. And now I would like to introduce to you a very important person with our Neighbors Table, our director, Lindsay Haight, who has worked tirelessly, not only since she began this position, but particularly over the past year and a half. Lindsay Haight.
Good morning. It's so nice to see you all walking around as if you've had bodies this whole time. It's good that none of us have forgotten to use our legs during this time while we've all been glued to the screen. But I just want to echo how amazing it is to see all of you in person. While we've been showing up in the office every day and getting to work, I think all of you who've been there with me would agree that just a little bit of the joy of seeing people's faces and sharing hugs and greetings in person has just been that little missing piece. So we are so thrilled to be standing here speaking to a sold-out crowd and talking to all of our friends and supporters at home. Thank you. I feel like this is a symbolic day with the stormy weather outside, but here we are, all cozy and safe and taking care of one another inside these four walls. So quite metaphorical, but thank you all for braving the weather to come out to see us. I want to join Kim and Dana with thanking all of you for coming out today. Thank you to the Institution for Savings for once again showing up to support our mission. Thank you to all of the supporters and the sponsors who made today possible, who filled your tables. Again, a sold-out crowd today, and we couldn't be more thrilled. A little bit stressful, but really thrilled to see you all. Thank you to our elected officials. I do want to acknowledge that Senator DiZoglio did make it here in the room, and so we are thankful, Diana, thank you for being here, Senator. So grateful that you could squeeze it into your very busy morning and get here despite the weather. And I really want to give a round of applause and a thanks to the Blue Ocean team who show up for us every year, and this year working in these difficult circumstances to create a welcoming, warm, and safe environment for all of us to gather. So thank you all. So I could go on, and we could all spend hours catching up because we haven't seen each other in so long. But the reality is that we are here today as we gather here every year for a specific purpose. As if the challenge of food insecurity in our region was not already on the rise, the pandemic has revealed how fragile economic stability has been for so many, particularly working families in our region who are living paycheck to paycheck before the pandemic. In 2018, when we declared Amesbury our first food secure city, we recognized there was a critical difference between being hunger-free and being food secure. But we never imagined just how much this last 2 years would test that progress. In the 1990s, as we served hundreds of guests each week at our Wednesday meal, they told us how much that dinner and connecting with their neighbors meant to them, and that they were so grateful to go home with bellies full. In those moments, they were hunger-free. But what would keep them from going hungry the next day? We responded to this problem by providing extra dinners and groceries through a humble food pantry. But in the wake of the 2008 recession, hundreds more were turning to us each week. While we could provide for them in the moment, we knew we needed to work differently and needed better tools to ensure that they would not go hungry the next week. As many of you have witnessed firsthand, the creation and expansion of our state-of-the-art markets in 2016 and 18 have reached thousands of people and serve as a model to reshape community-based food access across the country. Our value of dignity and community, paired with the proper infrastructure and tools, have allowed us to create the consistency and reliability in food access that distinguishes food security from merely being hunger-free. In July 2020, Amesbury Public Schools conducted a return-to-school survey, and I applaud them for including a question about food access in that survey, because that's what a food secure city does in the face of a national lockdown. In the height of the pandemic, fewer than 6% of Amesbury families identified food access as a concern, despite increasing numbers over 20% across the Commonwealth and the nation among working families. Every day someone shops or dines with our neighbor's table is a day that they are hunger-free. But every day that they know that they can count on us to catch them when they fall, tomorrow, when something goes wrong, and even in a global pandemic, is a day they can feel food secure. Over the past few years, so many of you have joined us at the table to build on successful strategies. Across sectors, from healthcare to schools to city and town offices and local businesses, now armed with an understanding of the prevalence of food insecurity in our region, you are all committed to doing something about it. In 2019, we set the 2029 goal to build a food safety net that could support the estimated 6,000 people who were food insecure at that time. Our goal was and continues to be to ensure that every individual in every one of our cities and towns has consistent, reliable access to food, whether they have money in their pocket or not, whether they have a car or are homebound, whether they're healthy or facing uncertainty of illness, whether they're home caring for their children or now retired from a lifetime of work and building our communities. And yes, we can provide universal food access even in the uncertainty and facing a global pandemic and economic crisis. In 2020, within weeks of the pandemic shutdown, we pivoted all of our markets and meal to takeout, curbside, and home delivery. Vision, perseverance, and frankly, the generous, faithful support from all of you, members of our community, enabled us to launch an online shopping platform in just 8 days, so that all of our guests could continue to shop with full choice and variety of fresh, healthy foods. To date, nearly 50,000 orders have been placed on our platform. More than 2 million pounds of groceries have been packed to order. All this to put food on the table for 5,600 of our neighbors. A real round of applause goes to the extraordinary efforts and resilience of ONT's market and warehouse staff and volunteers. Many are here today, including those who have been taking phone orders from their own living rooms to make sure that this operation keeps going every day. Please join me. We will keep our COVID adaptations going through the winter and hope that 2022 brings the opportunity for us to reopen our markets and our dining rooms safely. Our number one priority is that our neighbors get the food they need when and where they need it. This past spring, as we do every year, we surveyed our guests to make sure we were doing just that. Hearing from more than 500 households, 83% of them told us that we were indeed providing the quantity and quality of food they needed to keep their family fed and healthy. 100% of them, this is no surprise, said they felt that our programs offered both a safe and welcoming environment. Again, kudos to all of you who are the faces on the curbside and the voices over the phone. While we work in the day-to-day, we must also keep our eye on the big picture. We continue to track the levels of food insecurity in our region. This graph shows you how food insecurity has changed since 2014. 10 years after the 2008 recession, we were finally leveling off in 2018, still well above 2008 rates. But the pandemic has thrown us a curveball, and food insecurity locally has increased by 67%, from 6,000 to now more than 10,000 residents facing food insecurity every day. Beyond how many meals and pounds we are distributing, what is most important is that we are reaching the people who need the assistance. As you can see on by those blue and yellow lines, we were closing in on the gap, serving close to those 6,000 people identified as in need before the pandemic. But now we have to work smarter and with better tools to reach the new goalpost. We are working to ensure local residents are accessing publicly funded programs like SNAP and school meals, which continue to be grossly underutilized in our region. Our goal is to close the gap between those in need and those being served. If we've learned anything over the last 29 years, it's that no one of us can do it alone. Building on our existing strategies and taking lessons from the pandemic world, we will continue to approach solutions through partnerships. We will require the leaders in our communities to continue to be at the table through our Food Security Advisory Group to ensure that local awareness and resources are devoted to solving this problem. Our strategies and solutions will be rooted in the understanding of where and why food insecurity continues to persist, and in the needs expressed by those experiencing food insecurity firsthand. We must continue to put the right tools in place. Moving 2 million pounds of food requires appropriate infrastructure. Beyond all your strong biceps, we also need refrigeration, trucks, accessible marketplaces, technology, and a core staff to keep our crews rowing in the same direction every day. We will build on the assets that already exist in our region. As the conveners of the Seacoast Food Providers, we want to enhance the efforts and impact that our network of local food pantry and meal programs have had in these 12 cities and towns. Over the years, you have invested in building the infrastructure and expertise that is our Neighbors Table. We are in turn committed to leveraging those resources and knowledge base to increase the capacity of our network as a whole, and we look forward to being able to share that evolving strategy in the year ahead. In closing, today is about bringing people together to remind ourselves of the importance of addressing food insecurity as both a social and economic condition that affects every member of our community. This event is a time to check on our progress and ensure that we are doing more than keeping people hunger-free. Your donations to our Neighbors Table are an investment in the strategy and tools we need to reach universal food access. Today, we unite as a community, resolved to give all we can and to do the work until every one of our neighbors are food secure. Thank you all for being a part of this movement. I'd like to welcome our friend and our board chair, Eve Lee, who will have the fun part of presenting to our champions this year.
Good morning, everybody. Like Lindsay said, I do indeed have the fun part of the of the breakfast because I get to hand out a few awards. I also have the distinguished honor to serve as the board chairperson at Our Neighbors Table, and just really thrilled to be able to be here to acknowledge and celebrate our community champions who have gone above and beyond to help increase food security in our region. I think I'm a little taller than Lindsay. So like I said, today we're going to celebrate just a few champions, but first of all, truthfully, we must acknowledge the hundreds of individuals who have worked tirelessly over the last 18 months to keep O&T's food distribution going strong. To those of you who committed to working every single week, to those of you working multiple shifts every single week, I thank you and celebrate you. To those of you who practice care and safety while you were at your shifts, and also to all of you who limited your activities and maintained your vigilance so that you could be at O&T every single week. We maintained 0 infections at O&T over the course of the last 18 months, and no shutdown, so thank you, everybody. So please know that we really appreciate and celebrate you. You're all champions of food security, and the institution and individuals we recognize today are a reflection of your passion and dedication, and certainly some of the best among us. So who are these champions that we've asked to come out this morning on this beautiful, beautiful day? It is a great day to be in this particular venue, very dramatic, and if you're sitting over by the window, it sounds like those windows are going to pop off just about any minute, so be glad you're over here. But there are some envelopes on your table. If the windows pop open and the wind comes in, hold on to those envelopes. You're going to need those later. Don't let those fly away. So in 2007, Our Neighbors Table launched our Food Security Advisory Group, and we invited local leaders to join us to address food insecurity across the region. From the very beginning, the town of Salisbury held multiple seats at the table. Over the last several years, Neil Harrington, the town manager, and his team in planning and economic development have invested resources to ensure O&T and its partners could maintain services to its residents. Liz Pettis and her team at the Council on Aging flexed their creativity to start a weekly field trip to bring Salisbury seniors for a shopping trip at the O&T Market in Amesbury. The strength of our partnership is what has allowed us to pivot without skipping a beat during this crazy last 19 months to make sure that no Salisbury residents went without food during the pandemic. From the Council on Aging's door-to-door deliveries and the town's prioritization to use COVID-related federal and state dollars to support the additional services needed when its residents and businesses were impacted by the shutdown. The latest milestone in a long line of many in this growing partnership is the opening of Joanne's Pantry, a miniature-sized O&T market at the Salisbury Senior Center that just opened within the last few months, so we're super excited about that. We applaud the leaders and residents of the town of Salisbury for their understanding that food security is both a social and economic issue that affects everyone in their community. We thank you and appreciate your commitment to helping O&T further our goal of food security for all. Thank you. We welcome Wilma McDonald, Chair of the Select Board, to accept the award on the town of Salisbury's behalf. Wilma.
Welcome to beautiful Salisbury Beach. For those of you who have never experienced a nor'easter, Wayne ordered it especially for you. I hope you appreciate it. We gave the window seats to the people that have good hearing because I can hear the waves pounding down. I'd first like to briefly acknowledge the people at my table. Excuse me. We have Liz Pettis and Emily Thompson from the Council on Aging, Wayne Worth, Council on Aging member, my fellow selectmen Donna Abdullah and Chuck Takesian, and Andy DeMarco, who looks exhausted because an hour from now, he will be at our neighbor's table picking up groceries and then hucking them up and down flights of stairs in Salisbury, delivering to shut-in residents. I love to embarrass him. It's my turn, Andy. Okay, where am I? Through our CDBG program, Salisbury has been contributing for several years to our neighbor's table, and we were very happy to do so. We are proud to be honored by our neighbor's table, and we appreciate their help in getting us to attain food security in the town of Salisbury. Thank you for the honor.
Okay. So moving on to our next Community Champions Awards. It's always difficult to pick just one individual who goes above and beyond, and especially this year when so many did so much. But after a call for nominations, it became very clear that these next two dedicated volunteers became the easy choice. Our Wednesday meal has been dishing up great dinners for nearly 30 years. The greeters and waitstaff have the fun jobs of mingling with our guests each night, but the plates they serve would not be possible without key volunteers in the kitchen. Prepping the Wednesday meal takes days. With the addition of family-sized dinners during the pandemic, sometimes the prepping and planning happens weeks before a meal hits the plate. We're using freezers, of course, right? But our kitchen crew has embraced the planning, the chopping, the mixing, and the plating with enthusiasm and a lot of heart. Or as those of you in New England say, a wicked lot of heart, or a wicked lot of hot. I don't know that my Southern accent can do it quite justice. Last March, that crew was cut to a small and dedicated team of 6. They come in over 2 days to do all the prep, cooking, and the cleaning, and still, when every guest arrives, they manage to put on smiles so big that even masks can't hide them. Bill has been in our kitchen for 6 years and was willing to step up when our previous crews were ready to retire. But through the pandemic, Bill has really brought his heart and soul to the Wednesday meal. He's been there working hand in hand with our staff, and he provides encouragement to new volunteers to help them figure out the drill. He's even donned the big red suit to make sure our littlest guests still experience the magic of Christmas. He's no stranger to cooking community meals, as he cooked for other organizations before his family moved to Amesbury. But we're so grateful that he's here, and he's adopted O&T's Kitchen as his home away from home. Please join me in giving a heartfelt thanks to our dedicated champion, Bill Genevan. Our next community champion, is a familiar face and a voice to so many of our guests, and a friend of mine. Before the pandemic, she was the regular check-in volunteer at the Amesbury Market, and I had the pleasure of working with her on many a Saturday morning. Her greeting, "It's so nice to see you today," was something every guest looked forward to, and when she went away on vacation, they noticed. They always asked where she was. During the pandemic, she takes phone orders from the office and from her own home and still greets every caller with the same warmth. Some guests have been known to call her on Friday mornings, even if they don't need food, just to have a chat and to hear her voice. This volunteer gets a lot of face time with our guests, but what many probably don't know is that she puts in just as much time and effort behind the scenes. From data entry to kitchen cleanup, to serving on our Volunteer Appreciation Committee, there are not many things Clarissa hasn't done over the years. Chances are you've even received a birthday or holiday card signed by her hand, and she has beautiful handwriting because she was a school teacher. I've gotten a few of those lovely cards. We're so grateful that her grandfather inspired her to make sure everyone has food to eat, and that her best friend tricked her into joining a one-time event committee 8 years ago. Please join me in celebrating our champion, Clarissa Taylor.
Well, a few years ago, when I retired from Amesbury Public Schools, my good friend Murray Bailey said to me, "Oh, Clarissa, would you like to join the our Neighbors Table Volunteer Appreciation Committee? It's just one meeting, one event." I went, "Sure, I can do that. One meeting, one event. Sure." Remember this, Murray? Okay. Well, it turned out to be this one meeting and one event turned into many meetings, many events, and the greatest joy to volunteer for many, many hours at a great organization, Our Neighbors Table. I love being part of Our Neighbors Table. I love everything they represent. I love meeting the guests. I just love being part of this community. And so I'm so glad that Murray asked me to join with one meeting, one event.
Okay. Somewhat differently, I got involved in Our Neighbors Table because we moved here, and I've been in a few other organizations. And when we moved, Our Neighbors Table had such a great reputation. I knew that right away I was going to go. That was one of the first things we did when we came here, is contact them, my wife and I. She also volunteers, so we volunteer together separately in different buildings. It works out well. But it is an amazing organization, and all of the volunteers are so dedicated, and we have a lot of fun. I think that's the key to the volunteering, is if it can't be a job. It's got to be something you like to do and that you enjoy, and you certainly make it that way here. Thank you.
Welcome back, Dana Marshall.
All right. This is my favorite part. I get to be Oprah or Ellen or whoever the latest daytime host is. I'm Dana. As you know, I'm from Our Neighbors Table. I'm on the board, and there are some cool people I want you to join me in chatting with this morning. I have, first of all, Tress Ricker, who is an important part of ONT and has really done some amazing things recently. She is the food resource advocate of Our Neighbors Table, and she's known as the SNAP Lady. We'll talk a little bit more about what that entails. We're also with Pam Keeley, and Pam is the food service director from Newburyport Public Schools. She too has had to pivot over the past year and a half, as I'm sure teachers pretty much do each and every day of their career. So what I'd like to do is talk about what Our Neighbors Table brought to you initially. What brought you to the table to get involved in Our Neighbors Table before you even became the SNAP Lady?
So my background is in social work. I have a degree in social work, and I have 25 plus years experience working with underserved populations. I moved to Amesbury 5 or 6 years ago, and just love the town. And was working well out of town at the time and really wanted to contribute to my community more and to use my skills for my community. And like the Genovans, I found that Our Neighbors Table had a great reputation, was well supported by the community, and had a mission that met with, my professional goals. So I really wanted to be a part of that.
So tell us about your role as the SNAP lady at Our Neighbors Table. How did that come about? And just what is SNAP, just in really simple terms for everyone here?
So SNAP is a federally funded program administered by the states to give people of low income money to be able to buy food at the grocery store and other places that sell food. So it's, you have to apply for this benefit. It's an entitlement program. And you get a electronic card that you use to pay for your food at the grocery store that's loaded with money every month.
So at Our Neighbors Table, you are the person that people come in contact with if they have not yet signed up for but are eligible for SNAP. Is that correct?
Right. We actually now screen all our guests to find out if they have SNAP, and if not, to see if they're eligible for it. And I can help them apply for it. Now, because of COVID, we can do that right over the phone.
Which is great. I remember when I first joined the board, we didn't have anyone on site to handle that particular element of food insecurity. And what is so great is that instead of just here's a phone number or here's a website or here's an office you can visit, we actually have someone on site that can immediately take care of that need. If you could tell us how SNAP, once eligible, how does that integrate into the ONT market and shopping and all of that?
Well, so we want our guests to be food secure. So whatever they need to do to achieve that, we're all for. So SNAP is a big part of that. Because as you know, I mean, we don't have everything that the grocery store offers. So what I tell our guests who are applying for SNAP is, use Our Neighbors Table for the food we carry that you eat, and save your SNAP dollars for the food we don't carry at the grocery store. You can use your SNAP card there to supplement what we have and meet your needs.
Right, because Our Neighbors Table, for the most part, is talking about healthy foods, and so SNAP can cover so many other things.
Right. SNAP can cover virtually all the food that's at the grocery store.
Okay. One more question about SNAP. For whatever reason, 50%, I believe, of the people that are eligible for SNAP actually apply and are utilizing that. Is that correct?
So yeah, you're referring to the SNAP gap in
Yes,
Massachusetts, which is the gap between people who are receiving other public benefits with income guidelines similar to SNAP or less than SNAP, who are not enrolled in SNAP. And there is a big push to try to reach those people and try to get them enrolled with SNAP benefits, because it makes such a difference for people's lives.
I would think that having a person who can actually guide you through that process is a whole lot better than just sending someone off to please hold or to a website or whatever the case may be, and then you get that done quicker.
Oh, absolutely, yes. I mean, it really helps to have somebody who understands the system that
Right.
they're applying to, what the process is, what to expect. It's much less stressful when you have somebody guiding you through it.
Absolutely. Wonderful work. Thanks. We'll ask you a few more questions in a moment. Now I'd like to talk to Pam Keeley, who is the Food Service Director at Newburyport Public Schools. Thank you for coming today, Pam.
You're welcome.
So talk to us a little bit, if you could, about the past 18 months. I mean, Newburyport Public Schools serves lunch and breakfast to many of the students. How did that change 18 months ago?
So 18 months ago, things changed dramatically for the Newburyport schools. We pivoted from a very traditional program, serving children in the schools, to, for all intents and purposes, operating a community food bank in partnership with our Neighbors Table. We took our program from a Friday, and on Tuesday of the following week, we started distributing food to families from Newburyport, but also surrounding communities. We had people coming from all over. We set up a drive-up line and did that throughout the pandemic. We finished at the conclusion of the school year, along with many, community partners helping us distribute extra meals to families. We had people donating so that we were able to give hot meals to families from takeout places. And then when we came back to school, we again were dealing with a very different situation where we had children in school, we had children remotely that still needed to be fed. So we continued with our remote distributions throughout the course of the entire school year last year. We had families coming to pick up food. We had many families that were quarantined during the period of time. We delivered to those families. We worked so graciously with Lindsay at our Neighbors Table to pick up groceries. And there were times we took vans to families and delivered to certain parts of Newburyport the groceries that they ordered. One thing I will say is that our Neighbors Table was instrumental to us in anything that we needed from them, we were able to do, which allowed us as a non-traditional food service organization at that point to deliver groceries and take care of the families that needed things.
Yeah, I think all of us understand that there were some, real emotional issues for children, certainly, who have been affected by all of this over the past 18 months. But when you think about the families that you serve on a daily basis under normal times for breakfast and lunch, of those families, how many really count on that food each and every day?
Well, I think the thing that was so significant during the pandemic and what's changed now is we have a much higher percentage of families that are relying on our programs. We went from maybe 8 or 9% of our families that qualified for programs to we're at about 15 to 16% right now,
Wow.
which is pretty significant.
Yeah.
During the pandemic, so often in the pickup line, as I stood out there passing the food out, there were families that would say to me, I don't know how this happened. I don't know how we went from fine to needing to drive through a line to pick up food. So there were families that became part of our program that had never participated before, and now those are children that we're feeding every day. So we're feeding at least half of the students in our district every day, probably about 60% of our students, either between breakfast and lunch.
Wow. And there are neighbors, that's a really interesting thing that we may not know the difficulties that they're facing.
Right.
And in school, it's breakfast and lunch for everybody, so no one really stands out, hopefully.
It's wonderful.
Under normal circumstances. So the fact that that whole thought process has continued just in a different way is remarkable, and you all deserve a huge round of applause, because that's like a massive, massive undertaking. And I
It's
know our
different.
Neighbors Table was so grateful to be able to work with you all. One question I have for both of you, and I'll start with you, Pam, is what about talking with your guests over the past year and a half? Have you learned that we might be able to take back to our Neighbors Table to inform us to be able to do things in a better, more efficient way? Are there some things that we're not doing at the moment that you, from the Newburyport Public Schools as a food resource person, see as maybe something that we can do to make things better?
I would say that the one thing that I've noticed, and I would say this is something that our Neighbors Table does well, but I think we can always continue to improve on, is the families that I deal with, they value the independence that they have, and they want to continue to maintain that while asking for help that they need. And what I believe we need to continue to do is be empathetic and respect the independence and work with our families so that they are continuing that and getting what they need from the services that are being offered.
Right, right. And once again, very much like Tress, I believe that you and your staff are those people that are the person that they can actually come to, that they trust, that they know has a knowledge of this situation. So it's so important for us to have this kind of a situation going on, not only in Newburyport schools, but as Lindsay mentioned, in Amesbury schools and all of the schools in our region, because nobody wants to see children or a family go hungry, not one day. And so thank you so much for everything that you're doing.
You're welcome. It's my
And
pleasure.
Tress, how about you? Could you tell me about, like, when you're working with these families from SNAP, a bit of a different situation in some ways, maybe not. Are there things that we can learn, that we can do better to help people get on SNAP, for instance, or to inform them about what our Neighbors Table does, to be able to educate the public, to let them know that we're here as an advocate and a warm voice for them?
Well, you can absolutely spread the word. A lot of people have a lot of misconceptions about SNAP.
Right.
And think that they won't qualify, or if they're on it, they're taking food away from someone else, or, you know, there's a lot of stigma around SNAP. So just talking about SNAP and letting them know that there is somebody at our Neighbors Table who can help them answer any questions they have about it and explain to them how it works. Just spreading that word would be a great help.
Okay, very good. We will spread the word, Tress. And I'd just like to ask everyone to give a big round of applause for these two amazing people. I think the coolest thing about our Neighbors Table since I got involved is it truly is everyone is a neighbor. Everyone is in a community, which is why our overreaching theme here today is unity in community. And we're thrilled to have you all here to understand what it is that we do on a daily basis. You hear often that there's a market and we've pivoted and we've done this and we've done that. But to hear how we have been able to work with these individuals, with our Neighbors Table, with SNAP as a social worker with a great background, incredible to be able to do that. And of course, Pam in the public schools, you talking about what you guys were able to do is really remarkable. And teachers everywhere have done that over the past couple of years. So bravo, thank you both very, very much. Proud to be on this Coffee and Conversations panel with you both. Thanks so much. Have a great
you.
day.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dana and Pam and Tress, for your insight and your heartfelt work to support our community. And how about another round of applause for our Master of Ceremonies, Dana Marshall. And thank you again to the Institution of Savings and all of our sponsors who made it possible for us to host this event again this year. We haven't been able to host an in-person fundraising event since we gathered here in October of 2019. So it's been a full 2 years since we had a fundraising event. So here's the deal. You knew this was coming. So luckily the windows have held, and I have noticed that the envelopes have not been flying around the room, so if there's one still sitting in front of you, please pick that up. And please consider giving a donation that's meaningful to you. Every dollar donated puts the equivalent of one meal on the table, and then you can put it in the glass jar in the middle. That's the centerpiece, so no, we didn't run out of something to put there. That's to hold all of your generosity. Also, I would welcome any of you to join me as a member of the Breakfast Club. And what that means is that you give a donation on a recurring basis, whether it's monthly or quarterly, and then you get to say you're in the Breakfast Club and you kind of feel like you were part of the cool movie. So please consider that. It's a super easy way to give. It just comes out of my checking account every single month, and I don't even notice it, but I know that I'm supporting our Neighbors Table every single month. So please think about that. Let's see, you can give with a check. You can also give with a credit card. And if you don't feel comfortable writing your credit card number down and sticking it in the envelope, we have a credit card machine up front, and we're happy to do that for sure. We are here to make it very easy for you. And we do really appreciate your generous support. You've heard a lot today about the need in the community, the food insecurity that exists, which is really kind of shocking when you look around at some of the communities that we live in and we don't think about it every day. So thank you for making food security in our region a real possibility. Also, thank you to all my friends and fellow volunteers who are here today. It's great to see everybody in real clothes and without a mask on and all of that. So thanks for coming out. Also a big thank you to Lindsay and the entire O&T staff who make this possible every single day. So thanks again for coming out. I hope y'all don't blow away out there. We look forward to seeing more of you in the future. Would love to see all of you come volunteer at some point at O&T. Like Bill said, it's just tons of fun. And you meet the nicest people. Only nice people volunteer. That's the beauty of it, right? You don't meet any jerks when you volunteer. So come out and join us. And for those of you who are here for the board meet and greet, please join us out in the lobby near the tables here in just a couple of minutes. And we'd love to tell you a little bit more about what it's like to be on the O&T board. Once again, thank you all so much for making this community what it is and making this such a warm and welcoming environment. Thank you all.